day, and welcome to The Story Behind the Stories. I'm Ken Waddell of the Neepawa Banner, Neepawa Press, and mywestband.ca, and I have with me today Kate Jackman Atkinson, who is our editor, and also Owen Devereaux, who does our sports and news department and quite a few other jobs. So welcome, thank you for being with us today, and we have a number of topics, but I think probably the biggest story or lead-off story for Neepawa area right now, of course, is Boston Pizza, and people have been watching that corner of 5 and 16, the so-called north junction of Highway 5, and quite a new fancy establishment there. You guys have seen it, and you've been out there and tried the food?
Yeah, well, we kind of had to rush through last week's Story Behind the Stories because all three of us were invited to what they called the dress rehearsal, which was basically a bunch, they had sort of community volunteers come out and pretend to be customers. So just with how it worked out, we all ended up getting invited to that and enjoyed some food. And Ken, I understand you were at the grand opening on the Friday evening?
Yes, it was, the place was pretty much full again with people for the grand opening. Of course, they had the ribbon cutting, the mayor spoke, our MLA spoke. Of course, representatives from Boston Pizza headquarters were in attendance and were speaking there, and one of them emceed the whole affair. And all the local partners, well, it is all local partners involved in that business, addressed the crowd and thanked people for their support. So it was a very enthusiastic evening, I would say. It's really going to be, I think, an anchor business for Neepawa's highway strip. I was telling someone that night that it was about the year 2000 when McDonald's came in, and there's a whole another story behind that one, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, you know, we have Dairy Queen, we have McDonald's, we've got Chicken Delight, we've got Boston Pizza, we've got Subway. Lots of places to attract the traffic. I think the most interesting statistic out of that I offered to the management there and to the marketing people was that just with the Manitoba Junior Hockey League alone, there is 125 team trips a year to or through Neepawa. That highway corner there is such a hub for everybody, but just for even for just the MJHL, 125 times there's teams, and that's a whole busload of people, 30 plus people. Could potentially stop in Neepawa for lunch or services or whatever and go by there. They're right past their front door.
To use that same analogy you used there, Ken, you also have to remember the Tiger Hills Hockey League, in which there's going to be teams coming in. Not as many as the MJHL, about 14, I believe, for the Tiger Hills, but then high school hockey with so many tournaments going on, so many games are being played for the Neepawa Tigers, and basketball, and soccer, and football, so many team activities. It's going to be just from those individual organizations, it's going to be so hectic because all the younger people are going to want to go to the Boston Pizza. They're going to want to go there to have their meal afterwards. So
yeah, and they've got the right at the very north side is the game room, as they call it, team room. Team room, and can be closed off so that an organization, a group, or a family gathering, or anything like that can be involved in there. But let's not kid ourselves here. I mean, Boston Pizza's menu is not the cheapest menu in the world. No. The food is very good. The portions are very good. The quality is. I've never had a bad meal at all, ever. Always good meals. But they are probably the highest priced restaurant in Neepawa now, which is going to. And that's okay. I mean, the people have been talking about years. Oh, we'd like a really nice place to go out for supper and for a dinner, and there it is. So
it fills a couple of niches too.
You bring up that aspect of it being the high end. Most people in a lot of towns that already have a Boston Pizza, there's a certain style that it's been built around, the structure of it. In this particular case, it's different. Aesthetically, it looks different, especially the restaurant portion. It's a little more high-end, and as we talked to the management about that, they did that on purpose. They did it with a very strict plan in place. They wanted to be a little more high-end. They wanted an open atmosphere, and I think they really did accomplish it nicely.
I think if you do a count on restaurants, we're still actually down in number from where we were 5 years ago.
I believe it. I mean,
Yeah.
you think about the ones that have closed since then, and as I mentioned, this really does fill a niche. I mean, if you're looking at, there's no sports bar in town, and there's certainly a lot of people who enjoy watching sporting events, even if you're not looking for the bar aspect. But if you want to go watch a game, you're pretty much your only options are your TV or your friend's TV, and
Yep.
Yeah.
so
And-
this is a nice addition to that.
And something as well I found in other communities I've been in, and even before I got into this industry, I worked as a bartender at a lounge. And there's a lot of business people, there's a lot of individuals who like to unwind before they go home for dinner. They would come in, they'd sit down, they'd have a drink, maybe 2 drinks. This was in the 90s, back when that was
When you could do
okay.
that.
But they'd come in, they'd get relaxed, and then they'd go home for supper. And I think that could be something like this as well, because there's nothing like that in this
No,
town
there
right
really
now.
isn't.
Well, I know that over the years, like the Brahmas, of course, closed, and
Yep.
Mr. Ribs, which was
Yeah.
at that site, is no longer there. And one that we used a lot as downtown business people, was the former Georgie's restaurant at the Vivian Hotel, which isn't open anymore.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. We were told there's 80 staff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
that's
think it's going to settle down maybe a little lower than
Yeah,
that, but
'cause
they're
the-
not sure because they're expecting
yeah,
volume.
the press release that came out from Boston Pizza International said 80 staff. When we were talking to management at the dress rehearsal, they were saying closer to 70. But regardless, those are a lot of jobs, and I think a lot of jobs in an area where we don't have them, is speaking specifically about evenings and weekends. We've got a fairly strong business district in town, but if you're, if you've got commitments Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, maybe because you have another job or you go to school, post-secondary or high school, there's not a lot of options if you want to pick up a little bit of extra work around that. And I am expecting that a lot of those positions will be evenings and weekends when people want to eat.
Yep.
So I think that'll be, that adds more opportunities in an area where we don't have a lot of employment opportunities.
Yeah, that's good.
What I think is going to kind of be interesting is over the long term, because Nipawin has this mentality of the new shiny thing sometimes. They're excited about it, and for a time, it's the be-all and end-all. But then the shine sort of goes off. It's happened a couple different times. The one that I remember the most, even though it's comparing the apples to oranges, is the taxi service. When the taxi service came out, everybody was talking about, oh, this is exactly what Nipawin needs. This is exactly what a community of our size and growing needs in terms of its continued development. But then as things went along, the need wasn't there, the service wasn't there, and now nobody really talks about it.
No.
Honestly, is it even still around anymore?
Yeah, we were talking about this as we prepared our notes for today's
Yep.
session, was, thinking about that business in particular, just
Yeah.
I haven't seen much evidence
No,
of it.
me
if
neither.
It's,
No.
if it's still there.
Nope.
Over the years, I say this every week, I go back a long way, but the Nipawin taxi service, or a taxi service for Nipawin, has been tried many times. One of them ended the day that he went to the restaurant and had not 2 drinks, but 3 or 4. When he drove his taxi through the front of a building, that didn't go too well.
that's one way to
Kind of
end the
affected his
business.
license, yeah. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, Owen, you had some thoughts about the CN development, how this might be impacted. Were you thinking along that line?
Well, Kate and I were both discussing that as well. I mean, what are the residuals of something like this? The development right on the corner there, right across from the CN development. It's interesting to see how the difference between, in my opinion, between business and government, because the business sector, the building's done.
Yeah.
It got done, it's efficient. Meanwhile, we look across the street and we still have a sign up for the fire department, new building. Any year now, it's going to be there. And again, it's apples and oranges, because there's, putting in a restaurant and putting in the requirements for a fire station are dramatically different.
Yeah,
But
the
I mean-
restaurant's more complicated.
But this time last year, I don't think had they done the auction to clear out the old restaurant.
No, it was
No.
about this time last year,
Yeah,
maybe a little
that's
later.
kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah, the slowness with which the governments move is just painstaking. It's hard to imagine, but anyway.
And not putting that on the municipality, because having
why
gone to
not?
council meetings,
Why not?
I'm not putting it all on the municipality.
Put some on the municipality.
The municipality came through with a plan. They felt it was a solid plan for the development. It went to the province. The province saw it a different way, so they had to go back to the drawing board. But that's a discussion for another time, and a discussion I think we're going to be having for a long time.
Until the CN properties develop. So we'll be talking about this in 10 years as well.
Well, you know, the first time a fire hall that I know of, first time a new fire hall was proposed was about in 2000.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And now we are 17 years later, and we're promised a plan.
Yeah.
It's just, anyway, whatever.
Yeah, I think this restaurant will serve as a good anchor for that whole redevelopment of that not redevelopment, development to start with of this former CN property.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, drink that, but only two. Only two.
I'll come and pick you up.
If you have three, you have to walk home on. Anyway, council got some things going on there.
Oh, council is finally back in the summer sessions. They'll usually only have one meeting per month. They're back into the fall and winter schedule, which means 2 meetings every month.
How exciting.
It is exciting, I said, and without a hint of sarcasm. But there are some things. It was a slow-going meeting this time out, but there was one thing that was very intriguing and could have a significant impact on you if you live in the Neepawa region. Snow removal has been something that we talk about from time to time. It's done by F. Kozak and Sons. It's not done in-house by the city or the town of Neepawa, sorry. F. Kozak has the contract. They've had the contract since 2013. During the last council meeting, however,
I think they've had it longer. I think the current contract started in 2013 because
Thank
they've been
you, yes.
doing the snow clearing as long as I've been here.
yes, the current contract began. It was a 5-year contract. It will expire in December 2018. It's supposed to expire in 2018. Kozak and Sons has put a formal letter forward to the town council requesting that they get out of their contract. This is interesting, and this could have serious ramifications because they do the snow removal. We're in the middle of September right now. It's outside, it's getting a little bit chillier.
I noticed that on my walk over.
There's going to be snow on the ground soon, and if they're trying to get out of the contract right now, what's going to happen with the snow removal? Who's going to step up to do it? And who's going to be responsible if it costs more? These are things right now they're being talked about by council. This request by F. Kozak and Sons was tabled at the last meeting because they want to examine what this is going to mean. If it's going to cost extra, who's going to pay the freight on that? Is it going to be the town? Is it going to be Kozak? Is it going to be us? We're not sure right now, but it's something to keep an eye on because it's something that's going to have a direct impact on all of us as we're driving down Main.
Or not if their snow's not cleared.
Yes.
That's right. Well, the Kozaks have had the contract for well over 20 years. And for many, many years it wasn't tendered out because there was only the one company that had all the equipment and the manpower and everything. But that all changed under the new ownership of the company. They've decided to go a different direction. The snow removal is not part of their plan going forward, I guess. And but it was not tendered out. Well, not being tendered out, then of course there's only one company in the town that had the equipment, who invested in the equipment to do the job, and so it's going to be quite a
Might be a big
switch.
change.
It will be a big change.
What-
It will be a big
I know
change.
we were talking about this in the office, but what do some other communities do for their snow clearing?
Oh, it's all over the map. I think that certainly some towns have their own equipment, and keep a larger workforce on winter and summer. Some contract out. I think some of them split it up among 2 or 3 contractors where they cooperate to look after the snow removal during the winter.
You bring that up, Ken, and I find it intriguing. as still a bit of an outsider. I've only been back in Neepawa for a couple years. I've been to other communities for much longer extended periods. It still intrigues me that there's so much outsourcing that is done in this community. I don't see it to the same degree in other ones, but obviously larger communities, they have the tax base perhaps that they're able to do things in-house, like snow removal. Perhaps that has something to do with it. But it's just fascinating to me to see how much of it is going out to outside sources.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of outsourcing, and the philosophy is that it's cheaper to, whether it is or not, but the philosophy I think is that it's cheaper to contract out than it is to own the equipment and to have people. Land sale, we got a land sale going on somewhere?
Yes, actually you were talking a little bit earlier about McDonald's and
Yes.
its location.
Oh,
It's
right.
interesting, it's almost serendipitous, the timing of it. McDonald's Corporation has requested the purchase of some land just slightly north of their existing building. The town itself has approved the sale. They're going to be getting about $40,000 for this small plot of land. It's not a large section, but it's just a little past the fencing that they have there right now. Reason they're doing this is that they want to expand. As anyone who's driven through the drive-through knows, there's not a lot of space back there.
A little tight.
It is. So they want to expand the drive-through access just a little bit, make it easier for traffic to flow through around the north end of the building, because you have the drive-through right there, and you have that small section between the fencing and the drive-through that some of the bigger vehicles sometimes have a little bit of difficulty going through.
Pretty tight.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's good. That's what sounds like a bit of cash for the town, and
They can use it to get snow clearing done.
yeah, they could use it to try and recover all the money that's been invested in the CN land, because it's CN land that they're selling there. So, anyway, Kate, you did a column this week. Tell us about your column.
I did. Well, I guess today it's not quite so much. Today, as we walked over, it's cold and a little bit rainy, and that's supposed to carry on. But last week it was not cold and rainy. Beginning of this week, not cold and rainy. It's been, in fact, pretty dry and pretty hot. And I spoke this week about why I think that our municipalities should be more proactive about implementing burn bans when conditions are such as we are experiencing now. I think I looked at kind of the past weather, and we were the beginning of the month, the last time we had any rain, and I believe you had to go back to the beginning of August to get anything, nearing significant. You hear lots of people complaining about smoke from forest fires in northern Manitoba, in Alberta, in BC, kind of all over the continent. We're seeing a lot of stuff burning, and I've been seeing a little closer to home, I've been seeing people, burning their stubble and burning their brush, and this maybe isn't the best time to be doing that.
No.
I think you're being too kind. I think it's absolutely asinine
Yeah.
for people to be burning at this time
Yeah.
of year. I don't think that people remember or understand the risk. But I was involved a little bit, in the aftermath and I guess the cleanup. And we weren't in the newspaper business, so it's longer than, it was way back in the late 70s or 80s. And it was very dry. It was springtime, and a farmer decided that in those days, you could buy your fertilizer in paper bags.
Okay.
50-pound bags, and so a pile of these bags,
Yeah.
well, burn them at the end
Yeah.
of the field day. Well, one bag blew away,
Yeah.
got into a bush,
Yeah.
grass went, the bush went.
Yeah.
It wiped out one farm completely, all the corrals, all the buildings, the home. I think they saved the hog barn.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so easy.
11 buildings, I
Yeah.
think it was that day, gone.
Yeah.
Their livelihood,
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was an insurance lawsuit and all the rest of it over that, but you never recover what you've lost.
No.
It
No.
can happen so fast,
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah, and it's so dry, and the winds are so unpredictable. And one of the complaints, concerns, I guess, that I had heard from a council was that it's hard to inform people about burning bans, but the fact remains that we publish them for free in our paper. They're on the radio. The RM of Langford implemented one, and everyone who I talked to knew that there was one in place for Langford. And the fact remains that people actually need to get permits before they burn, and if there's
Yep.
a ban in place, you're not going to get a permit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can't remember what I wrote about this week. What did I write about? I'm not sure it's worth ranting about again, but
Okay.
we'll just leave
What-
it.
Okay.
Just leave it. Doesn't matter. People will read it anyway.
Well,
Maybe not.
Well, with that excellent sales pitch, I'm sure they will.
Anyway, I think I was mad at the government again. Or
I
something.
think you were.
Yeah.
I think that they weren't doing enough planning. Oh, you're talking about the promenade, the proposed promenade over the river. And
Oh,
what-
now you got me started.
Ken's gone now. He just pulled the cord and now he's off.
Oh, yeah. Just briefly on that. The province and the federal government and the city of Winnipeg are planning to build a sky view treetop promenade from St. Boniface across to the Forks, which of course is a lovely idea, except that it's $10 million. And I think I made the point in there that you get to walk across the treetops and look down on this dirty Red River where they're putting raw sewage in from St. Boniface, which of course you're leaving St. Boniface to go to the Forks, so you want to get away from St. Boniface because that's where the raw sewage is. Drives me crazy. $10 million to walk across the river. I'm sure it'll be a lovely promenade. I'm sure it'll be a nice view of the trees. The Red River is not a pretty river. I'm sorry. I've looked at it 100 times when I've been in Winnipeg and thought, what's so nice about this? Well, it's dirty. There's trees in it. There's garbage in it. There's raw sewage in it. You wouldn't swim in the damn thing.
Nope.
I would be hesitant to even paddle a canoe in it. But instead of cleaning it up, we're building a bridge over it so we can look at it. There, rant over. Anyway, whatever. Sports, exhibition schedule. Neepawa Natives, go. 3 games out of 4.
That's right. Right now, there's 6 games in the exhibition schedule. The Neepawa Natives, as we record this, have been in 4 games. They're 3-1 right now. It's been very good. The first couple games, they had the young kids in there, the prospects, and they had very good showings. They split against Wayway-Sakapo. Very entertaining 7-6 shootout win they had here at the Yellowhead Center a few days ago. And then they had a couple games against the Dauphin Kings. They were able to beat Dauphin twice, 3-2, once in Dauphin, once here. And it's good to see that there's a real solid base of players right now that are a part of this team. And it's not just the returning players. A lot of the younger names are really making a name for themselves. I had a chance to speak with Dustin Howden about it. He's pleased with what he's seeing from the kids. There's a lot of potential here, and not just for this year. There's a lot of positivity that you could be looking at for the next couple of years. So if you get an opportunity, there's a couple more preseason games that are coming up against Winkler, and then the regular season starts up. So it's going to be a lot of fun down at the rink.
I think 3 of their next games they play Winkler Friday, they play Winkler Saturday in Winkler, and then back here for Friday again the following Friday for Winkler. So
That's right. That's right. There's going to be a little bit of ill will by the time we get to the games that matter.
Well, it's interesting. We always laugh a bit because the trainer Derek Pearson, his brother to head coach Kenny Pearson from Winkler, and it's funny, they chat before the game and they chat after the game, but during the game it's not quite so amicable.
It's a little frostier.
And mother sits in the stands wondering what's going to happen there. Anyway, Tiger season starting soon too, right?
That's right. It is underway right now. The Neepawa Tigers football team, their program has gotten underway. They played their first game. Actually, their first 2 games are all going to be on the road. They played their first game, though, on the 7th, ended up coming away from East Parkland with a 59-0 win.
Oh, wow.
So it's great to see the youngsters out there playing like that. They had a good season last year, if I remember correctly. They lost in the semifinals of the playoffs, but they had a good showing. They were a young team.
Yeah.
This year, they're a little more experienced. They're a little bigger as well. There's some big bodies out there smashing into each other right now. So
It's always fun.
it's going to be fun.
As long as
to
you're not
watch.
on the receiving end.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Next game is going to be Friday the 15th. If you're watching before then, that's. But the next home game is going to be Friday the 22nd. That's going to be the home opener for them. They're going to be playing the Southwest Sabres. So if
Cool.
you're in Neepawa, go out there around 3:30, 4 o'clock on that day and give them some support.
You were attended the Sunflower Classic golf tournament too, right?
That's right. It's been so busy down at the Neepawa Golf and Country Club the last little while. So many events going on. Big one for ladies golf is the Sunflower Classic. It's actually the 4th year. It took over for the Cornucopia Classic, which went on for so many years. They changed the aspect of it just a little bit. They made it a little more fun, added a few more prizes. Brandon Duo ended up taking the top prize this year, but it was Judy Prang and Jane Trope. They ended up winning it all based out of Brandon, so congratulations to them. It was a large tournament. Last year there were about 90 people that competed. This year it was well over 100, so it seems to be getting bigger and better. Had a chance to talk to the organizers. They're really pleased with what they're seeing out there. So this is something that really could turn into an annual tradition on the golf calendar for Westman.
I heard that they sold out. I was talking to some people who were too late to register and told that they couldn't get in. So that's how selling out is always good.
And they have a waiting list right now of interested parties that want to be involved. So you always like to hear that.
That's cool. That's really good.
That's good.
Not quite so much fun. Perpetual Care, Neepawa Cemetery. It's in the news
Yeah.
perpetually.
Perpetually, yeah. We talked about this a fair bit earlier in the season, and we have, I guess it would fall somewhere in the range of a letter to the editor from Rick Sparling, who's a familiar face on our pages. And while he doesn't live in Neepawa, his family is our Perpetual Care clients, I guess maybe would be what you would call them, holders, Perpetual Care holders. And he would like to see, some, discussion and debate about what's actually, going to happen as a concerned citizen who subscribes to the service. The town's bylaws basically states that Perpetual Care gets you flowers on the graves. He did have an interesting point that maybe the town look at sodding over half of the graves, which, if they're cutting back the flowers, if it were half sod, and fewer flowers, it would still look full. So I don't know, we thought this has been we've talked about it a fair bit, so I guess this is further development on that story.
Interesting that it sort of falls on the same week in which we received a thumbs down in our edition of the Neepawa Press, in which the individual talked about a few different things, but started off talking about thumbs down to the Perpetual Care, essentially, because we were taking care of this situation while other situations like the roads and sidewalks are starting to crumble. So.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a decision that has to be grappled with one way or another. I don't think that just ignoring it's going to solve anything. It's reaching a bit of a crisis point, I would say.
Well, I think basically it's that they're spending more on the cemetery than they are on, say, recreation or roads or whatever, and that is problematic. There's no question about it, but I'm not sure there's a way out of it. You had another little cemetery story about headstones?
Yeah, I had a little cemetery story. A few weeks, maybe a month back, we had, I guess along the same lines, Cecil Pittman was expressing some concern over the fact that the veterans' graves had no flowers on them this year, and a local headstone cleaner, Kevin or Toby Dagg, had seen this, and he was at the cemetery doing some work for a customer, and he had all his stuff, so he actually cleaned up all those headstones, straightened them free of charge, saying that they deserved more recognition than they had, and if they didn't have flowers, at least they could look nice and clean. So as a side note, I guess this is the second story this year we've done about the cemetery or the headstone cleaning services, and it's amazing to look at the before and after pictures. It's really I was really surprised. I didn't think that they could make something that looks so old and tired and barely legible look as good as they do. So,
just in closing, one quick mention about our feature this week about Meet the Teachers.
Yeah, so that we have a feature this week on Meet the Teachers. So I believe for the schools in the beautiful Plains School Division, it is all of the teachers from all of the schools. And in Rolling River, I believe it's just the new teachers that are featured. But so if you want to, we want to see who's teaching at the schools, this is your chance.
Fantastic. And there's lots more stuff we could talk about because this is a busy area. You just have to sit on the edge of the highway here at Neepawa and watch all the vehicles go by. We talked about trucking with our trucking week special last week. It's a very, very busy place, and it's a growing community, and we're fortunate that it's that way.
Well, and we don't want to give it all away. You've still got to pick up the paper to read the actual stories.
You have to buy the paper. Oh, no, it's free, right? Anyway, thank you very much for being with us for the story behind the stories. I'm Ken Waddell with Kate Jackman Atkinson and Owen Devereaux, and we've appreciated being with you today. Please give us any feedback you would like at news@neepawabanner.com by email, or you can phone us at 204-476-3401. Of course, you can drop in and see us at 243 Hamilton Street in downtown Neepawa next to the Credit Union Building. Thank you for being with us.